We are here to fix the Jets, and we have the man from the job, Ian from Jet Central. Appreciate you taking the time, man. How you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Kevin, what's going on?
Dude, another glorious Jet season, another tankathon, and another off season of convincing us. Like this has to be the time. Like, this has to be the time we put it together. This time it has to work. Just by probability, it is kind of insane that for not even the playoffs, but for 10 years, they haven't gotten more than 7 wins. It seems like almost by accident you would, especially now that there's the extra game. But we're going to just talk about some of the coaching, what we think about this season, some of the coaching potential changes, and then like position by position, kind of where your head is at with the off season. So first things first, we haven't really talked. I think we talked before the year, and now it's like half the players are different. And Aaron Glenn is aging like a president of the United States. He's like completely, it's a completely different world since we last talked. But what is your initial impression of the first year of the Glenn and Moogs era?
Well, between those two guys, and by the way, hopefully I'm not lagging too much, but
You're good.
I think there's a pretty big line between Muji and Glenn. I think if we talk about Darren Muji, his moves, like he hasn't even been here for a full calendar year, and he's added numerous guys to the roster. Guys like Juwan Briggs and Brown Lee, Membu. Like there's guys that I personally feel really good about, and I think objectively speaking, fans of other teams can look at some of these new acquisitions and say, oh, Muji's done a decent job. It's not like he's been here for 3-4 years and we're talking about four good players, kind of like Joe Douglas, right? When it was just it was always Garrett Wilson and Sauce and Jermaine and stuff like that. We're in Brees, kind of the only players that were ever really, talked about during that JD era. I mean, again, in Muji's couple months that he's been here, one draft, one free agency class, I think he's done, I would say, a decent job so far. Aaron Glenn, obviously the results they're not there, right? 3 wins on the season. I get turned off from the press conferences. I really, if he wants to go back and forth with like some of the media members, it doesn't really bother me all that much if it's, if Glenn maybe has a point where it's like they're asking the same question or something and he wants to be like maybe short or saying that he's already answered that question. But when it comes to him saying something at a press conference and then literally the next day backtracking, it just kind of feels like damage control. Um, yeah, from a result standpoint, from a production standpoint, from just a overall press conference optic leadership standpoint, I think we do have a lot of questions at this point in time. Me being fair, I like the guy. Yeah, I like Glenn. I hope he works out. But at this point, I think it's pretty, again, objective to say there are some questions here.
Right. It's not great, Bob. It's definitely not great. And it's I think that now the semi tank also kind of muddies the water because you don't want to be ripping a coaching staff that trades its two best players and Garrett Wilson and AVT. You probably before the season, if you ask a random Jet fan who are the two best players on offense and defense, they might have said Garrett Wilson and AVT on offense and Sauce and Quinton on defense. They're obviously all gone. They're playing a UDFA quarterback, so it's like you kind of want them to tank, so you don't want to be the guy who rips them for tanking. But unfortunately, we also watch the games, so there's that. So it's like, okay, like this also is looking pretty rough, man. Moogs, I have a hot take on Moogs. I think Moogs has almost become a little bit overrated. Like I know the coaching is really bad, but to me, I want to see a GM that can consistently now nobody consistently wins in the seventh round, but consistently start to win on day three because if we're being honest, it looks like they straight up donated some picks to charity there, including trading up for Tyler Barron. So you gave a fourth rounder and 3 fifth rounders, probably to get 3 UDFA level players on your roster. I love that they understood what time it is at the deadline and got what they could for Quinton and Sauce because I think it would look a lot more bleak if we didn't have though all this picks. Like that's the only reason for optimism is the war chest that they have. Well, we'll see. I think they're tethered. I think Moogie and Glenn are going to sink or swim together. Do you anticipate? Well, do you think it's on the table? I know that there's been soft reports, nothing official from the Jets. Do you think it's on the table that they would make a change at head coach after 1 year?
I think he's going to stay, but yeah, like we all know kind of the ownership structure of the Jets. And if, like, let's just say the Jets lose 45-3 against the Bills backups, which at this point I personally would not be surprised. As sad as that might sound. And I'm not sure exactly, when this is going to be uploaded. So maybe the Jets have already lost by this point, but um, 45-3, 45-6 or just some embarrassing showing where just everybody is irate and you have potential players and the quitting argument being thrown out there. I'm not going to sit here and say 100% Glenn's going to be coming back, but I think 90 to 95% back, or 90 to 95% Glenn, I would say would be back. What about you?
I agree. I think that he'll be back and there will be some like secondary changes. Jake Asman super chat, what's up, man? He asked, "What does Glenn do well as a head coach?" Ian, I'll throw that one to you. What is it if you're Aaron Glenn's agent and you're in there fighting for him? What does Aaron Glenn do well as a head coach so far?
Well, I would say really the biggest thing with Glenn, and this could be said for, I mean, if you look at the state of the roster, and you start to bring up other coaching candidates that the Jets interviewed, the Arthur Smiths, the Steve Spagnuolos, the Matt Nagy's, take your pick, the Brian Flores. It's not obviously a for sure thing, but I guess Glenn's sole argument would be, hey, if Arthur Smith was the head coach, will we have 8-9 wins? Will we have 7 wins, or will we be in somewhat of a similar position, 3 to 5 wins, somewhere in that range? I think it's tough to evaluate a coaching staff when the talent is just not where it needs to be. I mean, the Jets are simply just not even competitive. It's not even serious football. Like I stopped doing preview videos because it's like I question if the organization wants to win these games. Like it's
No, they're not doing preview videos. They're not watching the film. I hope they're not.
It doesn't seem like it, dude. It,
No.
it doesn't seem like it. But no, I mean, if I was Aaron Glenn and he gets retained, I think there's obvious changes that need to be made. Talent needs to be added, depth needs to be added, veteran coaches need to be added on both sides of the football, and you just got to hope and cross your fingers that going into year two, we see some improvement. Because if you are a big time Glenn defender, you can say and make this valid point, which is, well, the Jets were not some sort of playoff team a year ago. There's this like mirage that, oh, we had Rodgers and Devontae Adams and, 12 playoff potential, 5 wins. 4 out of the 5 wins came against horrible teams. So it's not like we had this catastrophic fall off and you part ways with all these different players. You make changes to the coaching staff. You haven't really had time to get your guys into the building from a front office and from a coaching perspective. I think if you're a random coordinator around the league, if you are maybe a former head coach and you're watching the Jets kind of operate, it's just like common sense. Okay, the 5-win Jets that still don't have a quarterback, that have a first-year head coach and don't have a lot of talent and they don't have a lot of depth, they're probably going to take a step back from 5 wins before things get better. But again, as Jets fans, we're all kind of just hoping that things do end up getting better and it's not just a repeat 3, 4, 5-win season next year.
Yeah, it pretty much, it really is. It comes down to like hope. I think I always try to think, because obviously we're Jet fans, so sometimes that makes us irrationally negative or blame certain people, and sometimes that make us like hope and be homers. So we're not objective, right? We're not journalists. But I try to think like if AG was hired as the head coach of the Saints and this year was unfolding for them, I'd probably be thinking, I liked AG, but I'm kind of glad we dodged that. That would probably be if I'm just being honest, like that would probably be my thought. Now, he's going to probably have 18 more games as a Jets head coach to prove that to be incorrect, and there is precedent for teams to turn it around. But when you do start like this, it's you're banking on them being an outlier. So we'll see what happens. Now, coaching staff changes. I would have guessed Tanner Engstrand is probably safe, but they're going to need a new defensive coordinator. Is there a couple names on the short list that you would like to see them interviewed
for DC specifically?
Yeah.
I think probably the biggest one right now is Wink Martindale, which is the one that Connor Hughes, I don't look at Connor Hughes, someone who covers the Jets and the Giants for SNY. I don't see a guy like that just randomly tweeting at 10:30 at night, oh, a name to keep an eye on is Wink Martindale for the New York. I don't think he's just pulling that out of thin air. I think there's probably some merit to it, right? You understand that Wink is, of course, back at the collegiate level, but Michigan, we had the whole Sharon Moore situation. They have a brand new coaching staff coming in. Wink Martindale could very much be uh, on the open market. And Wink is someone to me who checks a lot of different boxes that as a fan I kind of want on this Jets team. Someone who holds players and coaches accountable, someone who's old school, someone who's called plays before, someone who's not going to be overwhelmed, and also someone who's worked with a lot of great coaches and has a lot of success throughout the years. So I think Wink, you can definitely sell me on the Wink Martindale idea. I think there's, the obvious names out there, the Jim Leonards because of the Jets connection. And last time we went back to the Denver Broncos, well, we ended up with Chris Banjo, which was pretty sweet. And Darren Muji, obviously, yeah, I have the Broncos connection there, Sean Payton coaching tree. So I think Leonard should be at least looked at. Jim Schwartz, but I think Jim Schwartz is just a bit unrealistic because of the amount of hurdles that would have to be hurdled to go out and land him. And I mean, even if Stefanski does get fired and the Browns bring in a brand new head coach, they're probably looking at Jim Schwartz and saying, "What can we do to keep you here?"
Right, and he'll have his
even if he
pick of
does,
options.
right. Yeah, 100%. I know Al Harris gets talked about a lot, right? Because he's from like the Dennis Allen coaching tree, and Glenn is from that same, that same coaching tree. And Harris, you look at the Bears defense, the DBs, they're picking the ball off like crazy, and the Jets cannot buy an interception, even if it's right there in their lap. I mean, I think I've counted 5 dropped INTs this season. Like it's mind blowing that we still don't have a single pick. I was talking to my brother about it the other day. He didn't really have a clue on it. Because he was looking at some of the stats. He's just like, dude, none of the corners or safeties have picks here. I'm like, yeah, keep scrolling. No one has a pick at
Like
all.
the "does he know" meme.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So from that standpoint, it's kind of like, okay, Al Harris, the former player, the former, Green Bay Packers DB that comes from a similar style of defense that I guess specializes in taking the football away. That could, maybe make some sense. But for me, I want sure things. I don't necessarily want a lot of like haziness and unclear situation. Like if I ask you right now, what the Tanner Inkstrain offense? If I ask anybody, and they're probably like, I'm not really 100% sure. I'm right there.
They run a
with
lot
you.
of motion.
Yeah, it's like complete passes down the field. Like it's just really. I just don't like being in a position in a position where it's like from a coach standpoint and a player standpoint, we don't really know what we're gonna get. Like for example, if I travel to the future and I came back and I said Jermaine Johnson looks great in the second year coming off the Achilles and he had 12 sacks, that's believable. But if I do the same thing, I come back and I say, he had 3-4 sacks, that's also believable. Like I want more concrete answers on who these players and who these coaches are. I just feel like the spectrum is just so all over the place with the bulk of this organization, unfortunately.
Yeah, Wink would be. I mean, I think Wink is in the bucket of realistic, proven option because I think, like you mentioned with Jim Schwartz, like Schwartz, if he is let go by the Browns, is he going to want to join the Jets, where Aaron and Glenn, it's a coaching staff that's going to enter the year on the hot seat, so he could probably have his pick. Like if Shula gets a head coaching job from the Rams, Schwartz will be like, I'll just go work with Sean McVay the next 6
That's
or
a good
7
point.
years, and right, so he's going to go somewhere where there's stability. That's why it's tough to kind of shuffle the decks on a staff that is not entrenched because people see the writing on the wall. Everyone's like, we're going to fire Charles London and we're going to hire like the love child of Shula and Tom Brady to coach Dante Moore, and that's going to make the difference. The Patriots quarterbacks coach like used to work at fucking Arby's or something. Like it doesn't, like, and Drake May is winning MVP. I think sometimes we try to find like these little tertiary, like, oh, we're a Charles London away. It's like, dude, it's like your owner, your head coach, and your GM and your quarterback. Everything beyond that, we're just, I don't know. Yeah. If the Pats had Charles London and we had, I mean, he's probably fine. I'm sure it was a fine job, but I don't think that's the difference between the two franchises right now.
Well,
But,
quick, sorry to interrupt. Who is on the Patriots staff is Todd Downing. So,
oh my God, see, and he's
He has
like
a role
hammered
there.
at
He has a
he's like
role.
hammered at practice or whatever. Didn't he get like a DUI right before we hired him? He was like,
Yeah, in Tennessee, yeah, he was. I mean,
he's
the whole Vrabel connection, but
he's coaching receivers. That's why the Patriots are good, because they have Todd Downing as the receivers coach, and they have the former regional manager of Scranton RB's branches as their quarterbacks coach, and that's why the Jets can't figure it out. So maybe we can get them. Maybe we can give one of them a promotion. Maybe he could be our DC, the Patriots quarterbacks coach. I don't know, but yeah, Wink would be
Probably
cool.
would do a better job.
Yeah, I mean, dude, honestly, well, that's the forgot to read this. Thank you again, M. Mione, the best duo of all time, Jordan Pippen, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Ian and Kevin. Appreciate that, man. Thank you. Very generous for the super chat. Obviously, you guys know Ian, his own channel, Dead Central. Lots of good content over there. Oh yeah, with the coaching. So Wink is cool because I wouldn't want another first time DC. And I thought the Giants defense was actually kind of scrappy when Wink was there. Like they kind of punched up above their weight a little bit. I know he clashed with Dable, but Dable can kind of be a fiery personality. I don't know if it would work with Glenn. But when you look at the coaching versus personnel, obviously the Jets roster is bad, but I think one of the things that is depressing to think of is that there's a good chance the Jets' entire starting offensive line and starting defensive line is the same next year. Like it very like Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald, Juwan Briggs, Harrison Phillips, and then Fashanu all the way over to Membu. Like maybe Simpson changes, but those are like okay, those are 10 of your 22 starters who are not going to be back. And then Garrett Wilson and Mason Taylor and Breece Hall are all going to be your ones at those positions. I know Garrett missed a lot of time. And then Stevens will be back. Sherwood will be back. Malachi Moore, probably is back. And then AZ Thomas, who was playing, will probably be back. So when you look at the Jets under Saleh, when they went from bottom 5 to top 5, they had 8 new starters on their defense. And now again, look at defensively. If your whole defensive line is back, Sherwood, Stevens, Moore, and then even Brownlee and AZ Thomas, who started as a part of this year. It's you hope. That's why when people are arguing about Steve Wilks, I'm like, I hope Steve Wilks is just the worst defensive coordinator ever, because that's the easiest answer. Like you get him out of here because there is not going to be 8 new starters, and I don't know. Like Quincy Williams and Jamie and Sherwood, Will McDonald and Jermaine Johnson were supposed to all pretend or just completely like trash players. Dude, like Quincy just can't play football at all now. Jamie and Sherwood, who had a market, is unplayable. Like that's kind of the black pill. For me, even Stevens kind of regressed a little bit too. So defensively, man, they're going to have to get a big bump from coaching.
See, I mean, I think if I'm Aaron Glenn and these guys aren't living under a rock. Like they understand the production or I guess lack thereof. They understand maybe the perception, and I'm going to assume that it's at least talked about within the Jets building. Like, oh, Glenn on the hot seat already after year 1. Could he be a one and done? All the negative headlines I'm sure is the Jets organization is aware of it. So to me, I got to be honest, outside of the newcomers, again, the Brownlees, the Briggs, the Membus of the world, and I want to say 3 players from the Joe Douglas regime, Garrett, Olu, and Tippmann. If the Jets want to maybe make someone a backup or trade someone away, I'm fine. I'm honestly fine with it, right? If news comes out when the new league year opens up and the Jets are trading away Jamie and Sherwood for a draft pick because they feel like he doesn't fit the defense, I'm fine with it. Like I'm not gonna sit here and freak out. If you want to go out and draft a Ruben Bain at 3 and they say, you know what, we're gonna make Will McDonald a rotational pass rusher to come in on obvious third down situations and then bump Ruben Bain to the interior of the defensive line to rush the passer, I'm not going to sit here and freak out about it. I think, I mean, you talked about it before, like the Jets haven't been 500 in a long time. I can't even really, probably 2015 was the last year, right? 500 plus.
Yeah.
I don't think based off of how this defense has performed this season, even how it performed last season, it was better last season, but it wasn't really anything great or
No.
really anything to write home about under Jeff Ulbrich specifically. I don't think anybody has really earned just a flat out pass. Like, oh, he's a guaranteed starter. Someone who's been here for, let's say 2, 3, 4 years. Again, Olu's the guaranteed guy. Garrett's going to be wide receiver 1. Tippmann, I want him starting at guard, but again, Jermaine Johnson, Jamie and Sherwood, I'm going to assume there's probably going to be a complete overhaul at safety. Malachi Moore is going to be back, but I'm not really looking at the roster saying to myself like, okay, we have 22 different starters on both sides of the football and 19 of them are safe.
Yeah, I think this past offseason they erred on if it was close, they kept them like Tony Adams, Michael Clemens,
A good
even the
point. Yeah.
former UDFAs. Like, so I think this coming off season, maybe if it's close, just flush it out and get all of the depth to be your guys, because we still say like, oh, it's all the solid guys, and it's like, bro, Robert Saleh hasn't worked for this team in like 500 days. We kind of got to pack that up. It's not his fault at this point anymore. It's nothing lingering from Rodgers or Saleh or any of that. It's the new guys who are here, and yeah, they're the, I don't know, man. Like, going off on tangents. I'll go off on that rant after I get you out of here. I don't waste too much of your time. But we got another super chat.
Bro, I like being here, man. I'm always gonna talk bets.
Well, let me ask you. Let me get your take on this too, because there's a little bit of a chicken or the egg thing. With the culture, right? And you got Brees Hall, who he has like the thing on his head, like he looks like he's ET riding in the front of the bike or whatever, and
Yeah, yeah.
he's like, and Jermaine Johnson's talking like his dog ran away after the game all the time, and like, oh well, they have a loser mentality. We don't have enough dogs. It's like, yeah, you love 53 CJ Mosley's on your team, but this is what losing looks like on everybody. These guys, ever since the Jets were 7-3, since then, like, what is their record? It has to probably be the worst in the league, if not one of the worst in the league. So if I'm looking at a draft pick coming up in this year's class, and I'm thinking to myself, how would this young man handle 4 years of dog shit? Why would I even think that? It should be irrelevant to me. I don't care how you're going to handle sucking for 4 years. Like, this is what it looks like when you lose games. So I don't really have any problems like with the Gen Z behaviors of Brees Hall is tweeting the enemy, sleeps quietly but carries a knife on whatever after the game, or Jermaine Johnson scoffing or this or that. I think it's totally overblown. Outside of a guy like Elijah Moore going AWOL when the Jets were on a winning streak, to me, like, they're losing. They're playing a quarterback who they all know gives them zero chance to win, and they're just going through the motions. And you can't build a culture when you're this bad. You just can't.
Yeah, the whole culture, argument is just it's like you said, dude. It's chicken and the egg. Like it's what comes first, winning or the culture? Does the culture have to be in place? We see teams that win that don't have a culture and then it falls apart. Like Miami is a good example of that, right? Star players, no culture, not sustained winning, but they do have good seasons. It's kind of all over the place. But I think really the one term that I feel like just you simply need to have if you want to be a Jet and if you want to help dig this organization out of where they're at, you got to be mentally strong. If you're going to let a headline or a question or a stat or a loss affect you, or being coached hard affect you, getting screamed at from Wink Martindale, like, and that's going to like send you off, you know, spiraling. I just don't think it's the right fit, right? Maybe going to a well-established team where you can just slide in and, do what they require you to do, and there's not going to be any sort of backlash or this and that, might just be the better fit. So I think, unfortunately, and this could be also said for players for the Titans and then for the Raiders and for the Browns, you got to be mentally strong. You cannot be rattled or deer in headlights anytime there's some sort of negative thing that happens to you or the team, because if you're mentally strong, you can hang in and hopefully just kind of weather the storm and help dig the organization out. But if you're getting, derailed at every turn, at every loss, and feeling the need to point the finger or to deflect the blame and to talk, about how good your individual performance is, I just don't necessarily know if that's like that's the right fit for the Jets. It could be a great fit for the Rams because they don't really have many issues like that, or it's for the Packers or the Bills, but not for us, not for Cleveland, not for Vegas, not for Tennessee.
Less margin for error in that regard for the Jets for sure. If they're going to get more than 8 wins, they have to finally get a quarterback. So, should we get it over with now and say that Kyler Murray isn't Hitler, or I mean, Kyler Murray is, guys. If the Jets sign Kyler Murray, you will survive. I promise you. Your bills will be paid. Your wives and kids will be just okay. It wouldn't be the end of the world. But it's Dylan Terman and Ian are the Kyler Murray provocateurs, and I could be convinced. Like, if the Jets acquired a guy like Murray, I wouldn't be the end of the world. But in terms of the veteran options, like the draft, they're probably going to have the third pick. They trade up for Dante Moore. How do you think, like, if you're in the GM chair, how are you approaching the quarterback landscape this offseason?
Well, I think the first kind of like precursor that needs to get figured out is where the Jets going to be picking 3 or 2, and
Mhm.
then is Dante Moore going to declare? If he goes back to school, you're not going to sit there at 2 and just take a quarterback because you need one. It's how the Steelers wound up with like Kenny Pickett, like it's just not how you build a team, in my opinion, settling because you need one. And you
Right.
can make that argument for a lot of different positions, just like draft this guy because we just simply need bodies at that position. Um, and of course, there's a give and take with that. And ideally, you would love to have the massive team need plus BPA, which is kind of like what Membu was last season, where it's just like double whammy, awesome player, awesome fit. But I mean, we can kinda explore both avenues. If the Jets finish at 2 and Dante Moore declares, and we don't have to give up any draft picks, okay, cool.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna take the quarterback. Now, I'm not starting him year 1.
Right.
I would honestly sign 2 veterans and just plug those guys in and just say, "Dante, Patrick Mahomes redshirt year." Like,
Yep.
we're not going to throw a 21-year-old kid into the fire with not a lot of help, some coaching question marks, and not a great defense, at least right now. Um, I'm not looking at this guy like, "Please come in and save the franchise, save our
Mhm.
jobs," knight in shining armor type of thing that the Jets always find themselves in. Um, if they finish at 3 and Dante Moore declares, I wouldn't mind if they trade up from 3 to 2 and you don't have to really give up all that much. You'd probably have to give up, I would guess, one of the seconds, maybe like the higher second round pick this season and like a sixth and a seventh or something, maybe.
Mhm.
It's unfortunate because you kind of feel like there's teams sitting underneath the Jets, like Arizona and Cleveland, maybe Miami, the Rams, that I would say if the Giants finish it too, they would call and inquire.
Yeah.
So the Jets might have to unfortunately boost up their offer to outbid, just whatever, simple supply and demand. Um, now the argument could definitely be made with the whole BPA, just build up the team. And this is something that I quite like. I feel like for as long as I've been watching the Jets, very rarely do they ever go down this route, which is just stick where they're at, go best player available, build up the roster, and then create an environment, almost create this like impeccable roster to where you can drop a quarterback in and you have the outside, like the external TV shows, whatever fans saying, man, what quarterback would fail there? Like that guy's got to be terrible. But every time the Jets drop a quarterback into this roster, it's you kind of, or I should say, a young quarterback into the roster. It's always like, you gotta save us.
Crossing their fingers. Yeah.
Yeah, there's coaching question marks. Is this guy the right guy to develop? Are they building a system around him? Does he have enough weapons? Does he have an offensive line? Is the defense getting off the like, there's always so many questions around it. And it would just be really nice to have a quarterback and the outside speculation or the outside maybe optic is, man, you want to land with the Jets because they have a lot of things figured out. They have tons of receivers to throw to. You're going to step into a great offensive line and you're going to have a good running game. And you're going to have good coaching. Um, look, you can argue, okay, if you want to go down the bridge route, Mariota, Kyler, Malik, whoever, and say we're going BPA at 3, BPA with the Colts pick, 14, 15, 16, somewhere there, BPA in round 2, throw in, let's just call it 2 to 3, top end free agency signings. By the time we get to 2027, that rookie quarterback that's going to be stepping in, I would say is going to be in a lot better of a position to succeed than stepping into this year and kind of being forced to maybe save Aaron Glenn's job or have a Jackson Dart situation where he's playing after, plan is to sit him all year, but he's in there in week 5 because
Mhm.
the bridge guys are just unplayable.
Right.
I'm not sure. I mean, I think the good news here for the Jets is there's a lot of right answers. If they decide to build up the team, that's cool. If they decide to go with the rookie quarterback, that's also cool. Like you can sell me on either idea. I don't think there's like one way of doing things, but for me personally, I have a very hard time seeing I just don't want the Jets to go down the Zach Wilson, Sam Darnold route again, where it's take young quarterback who has upside up at the top of the draft, put him on a roster, expect greatness from him early, and he better show something in the first 2 years because if not, we're going to move on and everyone's going to be fired. And we've now blown through all these resources. I'm just not really sure. I just want to, I want to go down that path again. I think it would be, yeah, I don't know. For me, I would look at Kyler because I think the hate for him is overblown, and I think a lot of the hate is personal with Kyler too. Not a good leader, plays video games, stuff like that. But if you look at the numbers, Kyler is a top 20 quarterback in football. He's consistent across the board. You know what you're going to get. Completes the ball at a pretty high percentage, over 67% on his career. I would bring him in for a bridge and use this draft to build up the team. If Kyler's that trash and horrible and you got to move off him, okay, not a big deal. Now you have 3 first rounders in 2027 to make something happen. And theoretically, the team's built up a little bit more. But I understand that path isn't for everybody because Kyler just kind of feels like Voldemort, like we can't talk about him.
Yes, certainly. Yeah, where they're positioned in the draft makes it such an interesting choice because I feel as though if the Jets just had the number 1 pick, it'd be pretty like, all right, we just take Mendoza. I know we may not be perfectly ready, but now that you might have to come up and get more, and now that the team is looking kind of trash, it's definitely an interesting conversation. If the Jets finish with the 0 interceptions, that will be a staple in Unbreakable Sports Records. Put it in there with Cy Young, 749 complete games. Pete Rose, 4,256 hits. And wink, wink, Will Chamberlain definitely got 100 points. We just can't show you the video. We'll put that one in there as well. Yeah, it's unbelievable if they really don't get a single interception, especially since there's 17 games now. It's well, one thing that maybe this is old man shouting at the sky, but one thing that bothers me is that whenever a Jets coach is asked about it, they laugh about it as if it's some like uncontrollable phenomenon. I'm like, oh, geez, isn't that kind of weird? I'm like, no, it's not. It should be embarrassing. Like now it's an anomaly that they have 0 because like, okay, one guy dropped 1 but it's not an anomaly that they have like less than 5. Like you have that little because guys are wide open in a way. I don't know if this is the worst Jets defense I've ever seen. I don't know about that, but I think there are more receivers immediately wide open than I can ever remember. So that's what I remember. And they don't hit the quarterback. They're second last in sacks. If we don't land the QB in 26, will Garrett Wilson one out? We'll kind of that's interesting. That's an interesting question. I mean, hey Garrett, you want a Fields and you've got you on IR and he had like 50 passing yards a game. So maybe Garrett won't be the the assistant GM. I would like to go to the Kyler, Tyrod, Dante Moore QB room. Assuming Raiders don't get Mendoza, I believe Kyler has a better chance of resurgence than Justin had. He has never had the change of scenery. So with Kyler, here's the thing about Kyler. Number 1, I think we're assuming if he's cut or if he's basically traded as a salary dump where you're giving the team a 7th round pick to take on the rest of his guaranteed money for a year. Now, no one is standing here saying Kyler you give him a 4-year deal. He's the face of your franchise. He is the leader who's going to drag us out of the doldrums. You have to look at this from a coach's perspective. If you think a coach is entering on the year on the hot seat, sees Kyler Murray and like Marcus Mariota, Sam Howell, and Kenny Pickett as the same, you're out of your mind. You're out of your mind if you think that. If you think that and furthermore, the difference between winning 5 games or 8 games could matter to them. For example, if the Jets won 8 games last year, maybe Robert Saleh, Joe Douglas, and Aaron Rodgers get one more crack at it. Now, you could argue that wouldn't have been the best thing, but maybe that does happen. But they won 5 games, so they got packed up. Kyler Murray on a crap Cardinals team went 500 and put together a season that would be like the 3rd best season in Jets history. Again, among coaches, like we can just throw random names like, oh, get Pickett, get Will Levis. Again, if you think an NFL head coach sees Will Levis the same as Kyler Murray and chances of trying to just play well enough to win some, not go on a playoff run, to win some games to save their job, that is just not based in reality. There's going to be demand for Kyler for sure. And it's your 1-year deal, and you're telling Kyler, this is the pivotal moment in your career. So if you want to go play Call of Duty a bunch, then you might be kind of done and out of this league before you're 30. Or are you going to have a resurgence and then put together 5 or 6 more years of capable starting football where you're in the wild card and make yourself $200 more million? That's what you're talking about with Kyler. So you can kind of hedge your bets. And I think what's interesting is you could do what Kyler would allow you to do is if they take Dante Moore, you said you want a Patrick Mahomes year, and I agree, because then Dante Moore is not playing on the bad team. You can kind of build up the roster and you could say, hey, before you play next year, you're going to have 3 more first round picks that we have in here to help you. Then we're gonna know if this coaching staff is good or not. If they suck again, they're gonna be fired, and new coaches are gonna get a chance to coach Dante Moore. So you give him a year on the bench. Kyler Murray could give you a chance to do that. It's possible because he could play 17 games. If you're signing Marcus Mariota and Dante Moore, you could tell yourself that they're gonna want to sit Dante Moore all year long. No chance. No
Yep.
chance. No, he's gonna be on the field in October. We all know it. So if you actually want to see through the plan, and I like how he said Tyrod too, because if Kyler Murray gets hurt, Tyrod could play 2 games. You're really making sure you can play the rookie on your terms. I don't hate a Kyler Tyrod room if you're gonna want to put a rookie behind. I'm not in love with Dante Moore, but people who know football better than me seem to like him a lot. So whatever, if they take him, that's cool. I don't think this is the worst plan. What is your thought on that plan with Tyrod in there? And what do you think about Garrett and his feelings about how this could go if they don't get an answer at quarterback soon?
Well, despite like kind of the fan maybe, I don't want to say aura, but just kind of like the I guess the optic, I guess, around Kyler is that he's not a good leader. He plays COD, and that's it. He doesn't
He's
take it
probably good.
seriously.
He's probably
He's
so good at Call of Duty.
yeah, I know he plays so much. But even though that's the fan kind of like look at him, I feel like if Kyler Murray were to step into Minnesota, like he would, like Justin Jefferson would be like, yo, like this guy can sling it around. You talk about it all the time, like the Tyler Shuck rule. I love it, right? Like, can you block a guy? What is it? Can you block a guy? Can you complete a pass? And can you have
Can you call a play?
coaching? Yeah,
That's
call a
it.
play. Kyler Murray can drop back and complete a pass. He's not going to be overwhelmed or confused by a Tanner Engstrand offense. He like again, like over the course of the 7 years that Kyler has been an NFL starter, of course we could talk about the high moments, right? Multiple time Pro Bowler, Rookie of the Year. He's gotten them to the playoffs. Not to mention number 1 overall pick and Heisman Trophy winner. I'm not saying Kyler's a top 5 quarterback or even a top 10 quarterback, but he gives the Jets a playable option. If the Jets sign Jimmy G or Gardner Minshew coming off a torn ACL, or Russell Wilson or Mariota, and the Jets are 3-7, and Dante Moore's the backup, he's going to be playing midseason for Glenn to save his job. Similar to like Brian Daboll with Jackson Dart, which, I think we can all say that the Giants offense looks better with Dart, but is that really the best for Dart long term? I would probably say no. And even like with like if you want, we can even kind of talk about like try to debunk some of the arguments too. Like it, one of the coolest things I feel like that's happening in the NFL is the reclamation project, right? The Baker Mayfields not working in Cleveland, not working in Carolina, ends up in Tampa and is awesome, right? Daniel Jones is another one of those hot guys. Sam Darnold's another one of those guys. If we just had to take a guess who the next reclamation project could be, I would say it's between Kyler Murray and Tua. If Tua lands in Minnesota, would anybody really be shocked if he's playing like decent football? Kyler, to me, I think he's labeled as like a career loser. I mean, I'm looking at the numbers right now: 38 wins, 48 losses, and a tie. Kirk Cousins was in a similar mold back at Washington. Baker Mayfield still, if you want to lump all the success in with Tampa, his career record is 57-62. Matt Stafford was considered a loser with Detroit, 74 wins, 90 losses. Is it? I find it difficult to look at a quarterback and say, oh, this guy's a loser. This guy's a losing player in a team sport. If we take Jalen Hurts, who's a bona fide winner, and drop him into Tennessee or Vegas, is he this great winner? I don't think so. And ultimately, Kyler's only 28 years old. You mentioned it before. Like if you give Kyler that ultimatum, hey, like this is the potential turning point in your career. Arizona kicked you to the curb and ditched you. How do you respond? Will he have a chip on his shoulder? Will he maybe try to buckle down and become a better leader? There's this cool story about Cam Newton getting like fired up because Derek Anderson was beating him to the facility. When Cam Newton was like established in the league, he knew that he was the leader, but he kind of was getting he was taking it personally that Derek Anderson was stopping at Starbucks, beating him to the Panthers facility, and going through his routine, almost like showing up Cam in a way. And Cam said from that point, he really started to embrace and mature into that leadership style of role. Like, hey, I really got to look the part and show the team, show the organization that I'm dead serious and I'm not gonna let the backup quarterback kind of show me out here in just as far as the overall optics of being a leader is concerned. So to kind of go back to what you were saying about can you block a guy? I think the Jets can. I feel
Yes,
really good about the offensive
we can
line.
finally do that.
We can finally do that, right? I don't know if we could hit a pass. I don't think we could hit a pass, but I think Kyler can hit a pass.
Yeah, the hitting of the pass has been a struggle this year. Even last year, we could hit it like Rodgers could hit it back. But by the way, okay, I'm gonna change my channel name to Kyler Murray
Chuck rule, the
Buffalo.
Chuck rule.
Yeah, the Chuck Rule / Kyler Murray Truther. If you based your identity around the Jets releasing Aaron Rodgers, then you cannot complain about Kyler Murray because he was better at football than him in 2024 when Aaron Rodgers played here. He went 8-9 with a bad team. Okay, so let's go. And here's the Kyler Murray rule. We're gonna introduce a new Kyler Murray rule. If you think Kyler Murray would be the worst option for the Jets, who's gonna be the day one starting quarterback? Give me a name. Give me a name and let's go band for band with your guys. Because if you're telling me it's Mariota, that's fine, but then say Mariota. If it's Kenny Pickett, then say Kenny Pickett.
And I don't necessarily just to quickly add something. I don't necessarily mind Mariota and another vet if the plan is rookie quarterback. But if we go, I just can't see the Jets signing
that's a tank. That's another tank year.
Yeah. I cannot see. Like, imagine we all get the notification, right? The Jets sign Marcus Mariota 1 year, 15 mil. He's going to be our starting quarterback for the season. He has the intro presser where he holds up the jersey, and we don't get a quarterback in the draft, and this is it. Like, I just can't see Glenn going down like that.
That's why I think okay, last thing, and then we'll never talk about Kyler Murray until he is eventually a Jet, and then we can celebrate him as a Jet legend. Last thing on Kyler Murray, guys. I'm gonna walk me through this. My Marcus Mariota people in the chat. Okay, 2024 Kyler, last time when he played for the Cardinals. 8 wins, most would be any Jet quarterback in a decade. 69% completion, second best in Jet franchise history. 21 touchdowns, only would join 6 single seasons with 21 or more touchdowns. The QBR would be the best since 2002. Chad Pennington, yards per pass over like 2/3 of a yard more than Hall of Famer that we had throwing to Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams, because that wasn't enough to score 22 points a game that Kyler Murray scored that year, which would be the most that the Jets have had since 2015, Ryan Fitzpatrick. So if we think Marcus Mariota or Kenny Pickett is better than that, then we can walk down that lane when it is time. But that is what it is. The hell else are we talking about? Oh yeah, I completely agree. They're going to have to do something, because the thing is, as fans, we can look at this as like a 2 to 3 year thing, and we don't really care. They're like, if you don't get a quarterback this year, who cares? Take the 4 best players, which is kind of, I think, that makes the draft more fun almost if you don't take a quarterback, because you're not trading up. You can get 4 really high impact players. So you like Ruben Bain, Mekhi Lemon, whatever, AJ Halsey, and like another defender, or even an offensive lineman. Like, you can really plug some holes this year if you don't get the quarterback. But is Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji, are they going to go down without a swing? Are they just going to say, you know what, we're going to sign Marcus Mariota, and if we can't win 8 games with him, we'll just get fired and maybe get another chance or not? Or are they going to say, F it, I'll go get Kyler, or I'll go get up for Dante Moore, because if it doesn't work, then I'm fired, but at least I took a swing. I just don't think they're going to have enough job security to not take a swing at the quarterback position, unfortunately. And I don't know why they would be tanking, like we talk about Peter Woods, like, unless they are tanking for Peter Woods. I think the reason why we're seeing Brady Cook play is because they want to try and get a quarterback.
Yeah, and that's a really good point that I caught on one of your streams, right? Which is like, why endure this whole Brady Cook throw everybody on IR experiment really for the entire month of December, and I guess first week of January here, if we're coming up, to position ourselves to just get a non-quarterback, or maybe like a not so impactful piece. But I mean, I get, because I was trying to think of like maybe a counter argument, but the only thing I could really think of is just like, objectively speaking, higher picks are better, right? Probability, chances. If you ask 32 GMs, which pick would you rather have, 5 or 8? Most, all of them will tell you 5. So that was the only thing. And from that, and by the way, I think it's pretty obvious that the Jets are tanking at this point.
Yeah.
Basically the entire, Wilson, Mason Taylor, Will McDonald, Brees is skipping this game too. And it's not just a Jets thing. I mean, the Giants are doing it, the Raiders are doing it. I think the Titans are doing it. Cardinals, I mean, they're actually just their entire roster is just
So
on
bad.
IR. So it's not just some like Jets sort of issue here, but yeah, I mean, it's the Jets have got to do something, man. And whether it's getting the quarterback this year or getting the quarterback in 2027, what we hope to be is the quarterback, I can get down with it. But I'm not, I just don't know if I could witness the Jets just going young quarterback route again and us not putting that position, not, the organization not exhausting every single option. I don't want there to be questions. Let's, fast forward to April and Dante Moore is wearing the Jets hat on draft night and me, hugging Goodell and everything. I don't want to be saying, well, does he have the coaching? Are we capable enough to build a system around him? What if he has to play in week 4? Does he have a wide receiver outside of Garrett to throw to? I don't want to be having these potential deterrents or reasons why it could go wrong. I want to try to bulletproof the entire thing as best as we can without being like reckless, dropping like $80 million in
Mhm.
contracts or something this year in free agency. Just try to build the team up as smart as possible, without being reckless, but have a plan, fill these positions of need, add talent, add depth to where if one guy goes down, we're not just, well, everyone else here is
Right.
on practice squad. Like, for example, if Will McDonald goes down or Jermaine Johnson goes down, the DN room is simply like, you can argue none of these guys are, maybe outside of
Would be, yeah.
Clemens, they're NFL players,
Right.
on most teams out there. I don't like being in that position. I want us to have the ability to rotate guys in and out. If you look at the great teams, Pittsburgh, or I should say like teams over 500, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Philadelphia, they have multiple like if their defensive end comes out, they can put another defensive end in and he's an effective player. It's not
When the
just,
Jets were good a couple years ago when they had Huff and JFM
yeah,
and
that's a good
Johnson,
point.
and then, they had that
Mhm.
rotation. It's just been whittled away to nothing. Yeah, you're right. Once McDonald and JJ are out, it goes right to like practice squad level guys. And if you look at what the Bears did around Caleb this year was kind of the perfect example of that, where like you were going to find out if Caleb Williams is good or not, right? Because it's like you have now the biggest variable is that he had Ben Johnson. So unfortunately, we are going to go into next year not knowing if we have a good coaching staff. Like no matter what we do with the roster, we're going to go into next year crossing our fingers at head coach, which is and all of them, like even Tanner Inkstrom. It's like John Mechie got open once on a crossing route. I saw it on the all 22. It's like, all right, man. Well, our offense is okay. Well, hopefully that will work out. But in terms of team building, this is actually a good question from No Skills. He says, "What if the Jets were to draft a non-quarterback that makes a Pro Bowl as a rookie? And what position would you want it to be?" I think that's a really interesting question.
I like that question. Yeah. I think if you talk about, like, my first reaction was kind of like Cardinal, like wide receiver,
Yeah.
but then that is dependent on the quarterback, and I don't know who the quarterback is going to be. So if it's Brady, if it's Kenny Pickett or Garoppolo or Russell Wilson, I don't feel great about Carnell Tate or Jordan Tyson or Lemon making the Pro Bowl. But I think probably the players that play at the important positions that get like the sexy stats, the sacks, the quarterback pressures, touchdowns, receptions, yards. So I don't think Peter Woods is probably going to be in, or really Caden McDonald, any sort of like interior rusher, any sort of offensive lineman, probably out. If the Jets let Brees walk and go with Jeremiah Love with the Colts pick, I would say he probably has the best chance to make the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, if I got to pick, I would pick wide receiver. Maybe that's cheating because simply that means we had a really good offense. And if you had a quarterback who could get a Pro Bowl season out of your secondary receiver along with Garrett Wilson, that means that you probably had like a top third of the league offense. So just because of what that would mean, I would choose receiver. But past that, I would definitely say edge. Like if you could take a Ruben Bain and have him be It's pretty rare for edge players to pop like that as rookies, even good ones. But yeah, if you could have a rookie edge come in here and get 12 sacks, I think that because you don't need a tackle, I think that would be the most impactful thing that we could get would be like the game wrecking pass rusher. We'll close with this, Ian. This is a good super chat to bring it in. So I'd say I'll say how should I word this? So we have 4 picks. We have 4 picks in the top 50. If we're going to build the team route, which I did do 2 mock off seasons, one where I built the team and one where I took the quarterback. I did like the one where I built the team better, to be honest. What are there 4 like positions or 4 prospects if you're not taking a quarterback that you feel like, wow, we really came away and we drastically changed this roster with these 4 impact players? You're in the GM seat. How would you attack it? Where are you going with those 4 picks at 3, 17, and then the 2 ones at the top of the second round?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to kind of give this like strange answer, but I think first of all, we don't really like we're in January right now. Like after the Senior Bowl happens and the combine happens and stuff, we'll have a better idea of like measurements, risers, fallers, guys like that. Um, it's not like we have all the answers at this point, but I would say there's nothing wrong for a 3-win team to go best player available. If you think that Arvell Reese is the best player in the draft and he's on the board, who am I to be like, what are we doing? We're getting way worse. If that player could be Bane, for me, if I was a general manager, I want to sign a competent quarterback that can hit a pass in the offseason and ideally hit the draft without being forced into specific positions. So ideally, in a perfect world, Bane would be my option at 3, assuming we finish there, because I think he just does so much. I watch him. I don't have to, you know, I,
You have to
I
convince
think
yourself.
I think there's a lot of overthinking when it comes to Bane with the arm length and whatnot. It's like we're trying to find reasons to not draft him over the 10 to 15 reasons why we should draft him. And I'm not saying he's going to be this, Pro Bowl player, but I just find it very hard to believe that someone this strong, this dominant, size like that. I mean, he's a versatile player too. I think if you run a 3-4 or a 4-3, he could play in either. He could play on the inside or on the outside. I think he's just a really, really good football player. And I don't think the Jets have a lot of very good football players. And I think he would add depth and he would attack a position of need. The Colts pick is, I would say, the most intriguing out of them all. Because you can, like you mentioned, Mekhi Lemon before, that would be awesome. Assuming that we don't go and sign like a big money free agent, or trade for somebody. But Sonny Styles, I think if I just had my pick on any player in the draft at 15, like somewhat realistically, it would be Sonny Styles, because I just think he makes so much sense, and I think he checks the exact boxes on where the Jets are so bad at, which is coverage over the middle of the field.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy just looks like such a fluid mover, and I feel like he has a really, really bright future at the next level. And if you're the Jets, to be looking at a guy like that with an extra first round pick, I would find it very just maybe a little disappointing, assuming we don't again sign like Devin Lloyd in free agency or somebody.
Right.
To pass on Sonny Styles if we don't attack the need. I think it's literally been every week we've been torched over the middle of the field. Like we look at like the coverage numbers from Quincy and Sherwood, like it is just you talked about it before, right? You feel like guys get open so easily this season compared to like however many years prior. I think a lot of that has to do with the linebackers and overall safety play and stuff. So I think Sonny Styles makes a lot of sense at 15, or 14 or wherever. Second round, it's a little too tough to say. I guess we could talk about safety, but ideally I would want to solve that issue in free agency to, again, not be forced into taking one high. We don't have the third round pick, but that would be kind of my preference, right? To get some sort of, raise the ceiling while at the same time raising the floor of this team.
Yeah, well, those are my 2 picks. I did a mock off season yesterday. I took Bane and at 3, and then Styles in the middle of the middle of round 1, and then you're probably looking to get a receiver in round 2. But I do agree that safety is definitely a spot where, look, obviously you could take a guy like Nicky Manwari and he's awesome and no one would complain if you did that. You could justify any position if the player ends up being good, but safety is a spot where you actually can get like the super chat mentions here, like a guy like Cam Curl, you can get a 27-year-old free agent. You pay 11 million a year, who's a good starter for 3 years next to Moore, and you go into the draft crossing that off, right? I just think whereas receiver two, edge, awesome coverage linebacker, like you really can't do that in free agency as easily. So I think I do agree with that. Safety, just get that done before the draft. Cool, man. So what do you got coming up on the channel? Sorry, I kept you like way over the time that I said, but I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. We got to do this more often. One question I quickly have for you
Yeah,
before we
absolutely.
get out of here. Um, just something interesting because like you hear like the cliche all the time. Uh, if you a bad position or like the worst position an organization is in is if the front office and the coaching staff knows they're on the hot seat and they start
Yeah.
getting aggressive and they start wanting to move picks and just spend a lot of money to save their jobs, essentially. Do you feel like the Jets have either got to fire them now or they have to give them like a 2 to 3 year leash as opposed to ending the offseason and Woody Johnson walking in the room and saying, you guys better turn it around this season or you're both out? Do you think that could be in play? It's either like you get rid of them now or you got to give them at least 2, 3 seasons, or are you just kind of entering next season, like just do your jobs and we're just going to evaluate moving forward?
So there's definitely logically that would make sense because I think what you're getting at is you don't want them to force a quarterback decision to try and save their jobs, right? I think that is why I think teams will give longer leashes, especially in the front office, because you want your executives to be able to be forward thinking and you don't want them to have to make 1 year decisions to save their jobs. So I fully agree with what you're saying. Now, if you go ahead and say that and they go 3-14 next year, you probably have to be a liar, right? You probably
Yeah,
so I think yes, that is you. I think your messaging from Woody is, I think, but you can. There's a gray area too. I think your messaging from Woody is like, look, if you can actually show substantial improvement, but it is obvious that you had Mariota and Tyrod Taylor, and it is obvious that okay, this team made improvements like the 2022 Jets that were clearly like headed in the right direction. I think in a lot of areas, and they won 7-8 games, but they did not have a quarterback that could really make them a playoff team, and it's obvious that that's the case. Now you know what, you guys can go ahead and take your stab at quarterback. But if you win 3-4 games, there's no excuses, and you probably are fired. Does that make sense?
totally. Yeah.
I think that's where I'd put it. But I hear you, man, because I don't know, like the logic to me makes sense, but it's just gonna be it's. I hope they are the right guys because the idea of those three, what is it, 4 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks or whatever it is, like the idea of those going in going into the wrong hands and being set on fire is set us back another 3 years. So hopefully they figure it out, man.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's like typically like you see like the well-ran organizations, they're never in that position. They're never in that pivotal off season where you have to make this big time swing at a spot like again, the Steelers, the Ravens, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Lions, the Packers, like all these teams, you just feel like there's stability there. And you're not hitting these off seasons with just like dire make or break moves. This guy's on a hot seat, that guy's on a hot seat. We can clean house. And when these teams that are in that position do end up making these swings, it never just sets them up for another 10 years, in my opinion. I feel like the list of those teams that do that aren't historically all that successful.
No, no, we kind of saw it with them going in to get like Reddick and Devontae and the quarterback, although he got hurt, which probably stopped them from being a playoff team, unfortunately. So that's kind of just bad luck. But they just tried to build something with no foundation, because they didn't have the right coaches. So, man, I mean, you almost like you almost wish like teams never do this, but like just keep solid and make him do a tank here and just strip and then once it's like all stripped down, you could have someone new come in and start to put it back together because it'd be kind of hard to say like, hey, AG, trade all your players, hey, lose on purpose, and then because you did that, we're gonna fire
True,
you. You know,
true, true, yeah.
it seems kind of messed up, but at the same time, do I have conviction that he's the right guy? Not really. At the same time, so I don't know what to
And
think about it, man.
yeah, and then on top of that, it's like people around the league that they're not a fan of the Jets. They're just like a potential
Right.
candidate. They're looking at that like, yeah, I'm not going there. Like, I'm not being the next Glenn. You know.
No, it definitely would be the least desirable opening for sure. But Ian, appreciate it, man. What do you got going? What's your schedule like these days on the channel?
Yeah, yeah, same old, same old. I think it's obviously tomorrow we're gonna get the draft order, which is gonna be really exciting. Um, Colts aren't making the playoffs, so we should have that pick solidified as well. Yeah, same old, same old.
Sweet. Everybody, that is Ian from Jet Central. Go check him out. Thank you for hanging out and go Jets.